Local Caribbean Americans are planning a forum to advance a new strategy for cooperation between their native countries and the United States. To tell us about the campaign for a Caribbean 2020 forum are two guests from the Authentic Caribbean Foundation, Inc., the founder, Andrew Sharpe, and one of the board members, Janil Stephens. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Andrew, because when people say Caribbean, what are we talking about here? I mean, it's dozens of countries, I guess, right?
Right, and a lot of people don't recognize that the Caribbean is the third border for the United States. So from Bermuda all the way down to Suriname is considered the Caribbean, and they are part of the CARICOM, which is the Caribbean community, which has all of these members who have joined, plus allied members, which are some of the British territories who are also part of the allied members, including Cuba, Venezuela as an observer also, which that's where we get most of our oil from.
So now, when you talk about relations between the United States and these countries in the Caribbean, what are the most important things for people living in the Boston area?
Well, for me, I would say for me, I'd like to be able to have some kind of opportunity to be able to go back home and to be able to invest, or to be able to have some kind of partnership where if my child wanted to go back to the Caribbean and say get involved in education and she's going to a school here, I'd love for her to be able to have that opportunity and not have to go there and do something different, but to be able to work with the colleges and the communities that we have here in Boston, in the area.
Andrew, when you talk about investing in these countries by people here, that is this just about sending money to family members? Or are we talking about other things that are even bigger, maybe?
Much other things, because as we say, the prosperity agenda, which is under the Caribbean 2020 strategy, talks about investing in facilities, medical facilities, in enhancing missions, research, and so forth, looking at the education system, security aspect, looking at investing, having a bed and breakfast. So it has encouraged the diaspora, the Caribbean diaspora, to invest back home. One of the great things about it is not only your home, because of the Caribbean single market economy, CSME, it allows you to invest right across the region, which is not just your island, but any island that is a member of CARICOM.
And Janil, if there's more investment in these countries in the Caribbean, is that a good thing for the United States?
I believe so, because for me, and I just in talking to other people, one of the things that I'd like to be able to see happen is the people that live here, they want to be able to invest in the Caribbean. If they invest in the Caribbean, then they're doing well. That's going to benefit the people that are here as well, and if it benefits you, for instance, if I'm excited about investing in my home, when I do well, I spend my money here because I live here, right? So it definitely will help the American economy, because it gives us a sense of pride, investing in our home, and then being able to spend some of the money that's here, back here.
Andrew, I know you mentioned security, but I think the one thing that maybe gets people even more on edge about the Caribbean is that all these countries are very vulnerable to climate change. Does this campaign that you're working on address that in some way?
Definitely. The HR 4939, which is the U.S. Caribbean Engagement Act, it talks about 5 major issues, topics, which is energy, security, health, prosperity, and education. So under the prosperity and the security agenda, the focus, and we see that many of the dialogues and even the visit by the United States presidents who have been there, like Barack Obama, who was there a couple of years ago in Trinidad and Jamaica, it was important how we can strengthen it, because we talk about security in terms of terrorism and disease epidemic. It will affect the United States, because once again, we're the closest border to it. And the movement between the history of the Caribbean American who have been coming here, from Shirley Chisholm to Alexander Hamilton, and many others. So it was critical that we strengthen that. And America, in the Caribbean a lot, we don't have such a lot of the facilities, so we depend on America to assist with that. In addition to, we see that the United States realized that China has been infiltrating the Caribbean region in providing, buildings and so forth. So it was important for us to look at how we can strengthen that act that's been sitting there. And, some of the aspect has been implemented, but much more can be done. And especially from a Massachusetts role, how can we participate? What is our role in executing and advancing the agenda of?
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Andrew Sharpe and Janil Stephens from the Authentic Caribbean Foundation. Janil, you work in real estate, and I guess you know people trying to build up their wealth and maybe invest. Do you think a lot of people that you work with here would be interested in investing in their native countries, let's say?
I believe so. I know I've spoken to a lot of people, and they are definitely interested. One of the reasons I got involved with Andrew is because he understood. I was talking to him about my passion around prosperity in the community, not necessarily in the islands, but right here in the community. There was a lack of investments, opportunities, or their ability to realize that there are opportunities for them. So I was talking to him about my passion in a class that I'm doing called Stop Renting to get people more engaged. And in that process, I started talking to other people. And yes, they talked about investing here, but they also talked about investing in the Caribbean and having a channel for them to be able to do that. So I got really interested because I'm like, I'd love to see that investing in the Caribbean as well as people investing here as well.
Andrew, a lot of us who are not from the Caribbean, we think of the region as a place that imports tourists. But what about the potential for those countries to export something to markets here in the United States? You see any potential that we don't hear enough about?
Most definitely. Well, export is on our second earner in the GDP. Well, rum is one of the major export. But also we've been looking at services in terms of, and also we have a few Caribbean Americans who are stalwart. They are inventors, professors. We have a professor from Cardinal Ward from MIT. He's been doing great work in the technology sector in terms of having Caribbean kids come up and learn information, that exchange program, that engagement that we're supposed to have, which the bill talks about.
Janil, if this bill were to pass and you had this forum taking place, what do you picture happening?
I would love, this is what I'd love to see. I'd love to see more conversations around for the Education Forum, around the idea. Like I said, my daughter is very interested in knowing more about her heritage. There's a lot of Caribbean kids who were first generation born here. I'd love for her to be able to have that opportunity if she's going to say a Northeastern or UMass or something like that, to be able to have the opportunity to go and spend a semester in the Caribbean and learn about her culture and be able to come back and bring some of that here. As far as prosperity and stuff like that, I'd love to be able to see where we have an opportunity to invest in some of the things that are happening in the Caribbean, and just open some kind of a channel. If there is a big development or something like that that's happening, give us an opportunity. Maybe someone can develop like a fund or something like that we can invest in, like a real estate fund. We can invest in some of that. And so when the Caribbean prosper, we also prosper. And if we're prospering by making money there, then we can in turn invest in our communities where we are.
And what do you think yourself, Andrew, as far as what would be going on at this forum? What would you like to hear coming out of this?
Well, what we want to establish is more engagement with our, as Massachusetts is the top education state, we want to increase that engagement in terms of research. The hurricanes are not going away, so how can we better withstand this climate change? The blue economy, studying research on marine biology and so forth. We have the coral reefs and many others, so we want to partner with some of our university where our Caribbean university can partner with the Massachusetts university to do research and opportunities, study abroad program, and facilitate our students coming here and also the students from here going there.
And then finally, is there a website that people should be checking out to keep up with what's happening with this?
Definitely. It's www.authenticcaribbeanfoundation.org. And we must say special thanks to the Institute of Caribbean Study, who is the pillar in advocating and advancing the interests of the Caribbean community in Washington, D.C.
Thank you both very much, Andrew Sharpe and Janil Stephens.